We are hopeless, selfish creatures, and we need a savior.
She was a total heathen.
All right, we're doing a podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of an exMo
And an everMo.
Walk into a bar. I'm Kate. This is my host, Erika, and we are recording from a new location this week. We are at Land of a Thousand Hills Coffee Bar in Daybreak in South Jordan, Utah, and we are so happy to be here.
Yeah, we're super excited. You can see we have a nice little plate of charcuterie here. They have amazing food. They have great coffee, and they do actually sell alcohol. So while it is a coffee bar, it is also like a mini bar as well.
Yes.
And we also want to let people know that wherever we are, wherever we're shooting, the views that we express are ours and ours alone. They're not necessarily shared by any organization where we're shooting, or anybody else that we might talk with or whatnot.
Right. Today we want to introduce our very special guest. This is our dear friend Kambria.
Yay!
And Kambria is from here in Daybreak, and she is Daybreak's official only astrologer, right?
Yeah, only official everything.
Yes.
The only person you should ever use for astrology ever.
Yes, absolutely. So all your astrology needs, go to Kambria.
Yeah.
Do you want to introduce yourself, say anything else about what
Yeah.
you do, your background?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Kambria Davis. As I already said, I am Daybreak's local astrologer. But it's more than that. I do wealth and woo, as I like to call it. So I am in the real estate industry. I help people work on their relationship to money and their energetic relationship with money, finance, and wealth, as well as play in the energetic space. I obviously do astrology, a big part of why I'm here. But I'm a sound healer. I'm trained in Kundalini yoga as well. And I'm a Reiki master. So it's just, blending those things as well as working in the wealth space too.
And you are a Leo, right?
Yes.
Best astrological sign.
I can't disagree.
Being here with two Leos on the
Yeah. We should check in with you periodically.
No, I have a Taurus moon, right? So
You do have a Taurus. Yeah, she can hang. You're going to hang. No problem whatsoever. Yeah.
one thing I just want to say before we kind of like dive into everything, I love that you do the wealth and woo, especially understanding kind of, our podcast is an exMo and everMo Walk into a Bar. We talk a lot about Mormonism and what the effects of Mormonism are on people.
Sure.
And I think one of the things that we've talked about a little is that kind of divergence with because you're giving so much to the church. So I think a lot of people, I've heard from multiple people that they have a really kind of weird relationship with money as a result of being a part of the church. That they've been sort of taught a scarcity mentality or like you give and give and give mentality. So I love that you're doing that.
Yeah.
Did you just describe me? I think you just described me.
Like,
Yeah.
things that you've said around that.
Sure.
So I think
Yeah.
that's like really helpful for people here. And of all the places in the United States or the world, maybe like no place needs it more than here. So that's
Right.
really cool that you're doing that.
Yeah, it's definitely when I got my real estate license 8+ years ago, a big reason I got into it was to help the average person, just the everyday person, find wealth building and be able to build some type of wealth for themselves. And that's just kind of grown over the years, being able to do that. I just finished a really powerful trauma of money course, and they talk a lot about scarcity mindset and how impactful that is. And also the systems we're all part of, right? Capitalistic systems, right? And then obviously, organized religion and all that kind of stuff. It can be a lot to unpack. But it's really powerful, beautiful. And I worked in corporate America for, most of my life has been sales of some sort, but I was in a high level management in corporate America for over a decade.
Wow.
And so, overseeing 150 employees in 5 states and now, being like the hustle culture and you have to do this and being one of 3 out of 75, men, in a position of district manager, 75 men, 3 women at the table. I've seen both sides. And then I've got this woo and I've got this like, people call it woo, but it's not woo. It's actually just energy all around every day. And being able to understand that you can have these spiritual experiences and be very grounded and make money and be successful and have abundance. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
love all that. And I can't wait to dive into all of it. I want to say one more quick thing, because one thing that you just said was, I've been on both sides of it. And you were talking about, sort of the corporate life and being on one side of the, in the rat race, so to
Totally.
speak,
Yeah.
versus being on the other side and doing things for yourself. And this episode is actually called Both Sides Now, because you guys are both on the other side of Mormonism. And I'm not. I've only known my side, which
Yeah.
is, what the fuck? But you guys have been in it and out of it. And I
Sure.
think that's a really interesting perspective. And then you've been on both sides.
Yeah, I
of
think
a
that
lot
we
of things.
have like three perspectives, not just because there are three people, but it's like yours is a never Mormon, us as ex-Mormons, but also we remember what it was like to be in the Mormon church.
Yeah.
And that's one push that I like to have, is have empathy for people who are still in, because we remember what it's like.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't necessarily choose
Yeah.
those things. They were chosen for us.
Right.
I mean, I don't remember what it's like as much as you do, because let's see, I pretty much stopped going to church when I was like 17 years old. So we'll do the math.
Yeah.
25 years ago. Yeah, just only 10 years ago.
No,
Because I'm 26.
well, let's start there. Let's talk
Cool.
about your journey out
Yeah.
of, or like in the Mormon faith and coming out of it.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, when you start having relationships with other women, it's a pretty fast exit from the church,
Yep.
But no, I'm the youngest of 4 children, and I was raised in the church, and, my parents got divorced at a very young age. So you got to think, that would have been about 30 years ago. To have people being divorced in the Mormon church was a really big deal at the time.
Sure.
And so my parents got divorced around 12 or 13, and then we ended up moving out of that neighborhood because of a lot of the things that took place in the neighborhood, in the church after that divorce. A lot of really painful stuff, and we kind of were forced out, I don't, forced and by choice to move. So then we moved to a different place. And then I still remained going to church over the next 3-ish, 4-ish years. And I think it was around probably my senior year of high school, and just after high school is when I don't have the greatest memory. So there wasn't like this clear, this is when I stopped going to church. But yeah, I mean, I started having my first girlfriends when I was like 18 years old. 17, 18, hiding. We're just friends, right? Hey, this is just my friend. Yeah. Special friend. Have a lot of sleepovers. And, so, it's just that. And it was, the initial was like, oh my gosh, something's wrong with me. And I had to go to my bishop, and I had to go to my stake president, and I had to repent. And so much self-shame. I mean, that's probably a whole other episode. I know that's not why we're here, but that's kind of a whole other episode. But that was really painful. But I had an incredible bishop. So I'm sure by now you kind of know the structure of the church a little bit. Or no?
Yeah, a
Okay.
little bit. I've learned way more about Mormonism than
Cool.
I ever hoped to.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. They don't necessarily all know. We have more people listening and than people
Totally. Yeah.
anything about it.
So it's like, I don't know. It's been a couple decades, but the bishop is like the boss, right? They're like the main person overseeing a congregation. And so when you sin, or if you have something that you have to repent for, or you have to get forgiveness for, or you have to, own up to your mistakes, you go see the bishop. And, really phenomenal guy at the new ward, for sure. Super loving, super caring.
Right. And unusual, I think.
Highly, highly unusual.
In the ex-Mormon community, we call it bishop roulette. Like, when you have a bishop in your organization, they can be incredibly supportive, or they can be completely authoritarian.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's a crapshoot every time you go to a different ward. So I've had like really awesome bishops. I've had some that I just had no compassion, no empathy. It was just letter of the law. So it's really awesome that you got one that was.
Yeah, he was an incredible human being. I don't know where he is now and his beliefs and where they are. But what I know is, like, my mom being a newly single mom, and, at the time there was still 2 of us still living with her, going and just saying, hey, I have to repent. I had this relationship with a girl, the way that he handled it was really beautiful. And again, it's like, I mean, I'm 16, 17-ish, 18 years old. I mean, it's a long time ago, but those things stick with you, as we all know.
Can I ask, what did he say? Did he say this is okay? Like, because I think what I've heard a lot, even from sort of more compassionate Mormon folk, are sort of like the being the thing is okay, acting on the thing is not. Did he tell you it's okay who you are, just never ever act on it, or did he just say be you and don't tell anybody?
Yeah,
What
I don't
was his- I'm just,
remember. Like,
morbidly curious.
no, totally. I don't remember what he said, but I remember for me, it was like, this is you, you are sinning, right? So for me, at that point in time, I was like, oh my gosh, something's wrong with me. I'm bad. I have to go tell my bishop. I have to repent. And then at some point, I ended up in my stake president's office. Again, all the deets are a little mushy. That was not a good experience. I was given a book. You might be familiar. There's some book that I don't remember.
It wasn't Miracle of Forgiveness, was it?
It was that.
Oh, that is the worst. That was the worst.
There was a book and it said,
it was awful.
I came across it. It's so wild that this is coming up. Right? It's like, I got some healing to do. It's still there. Right. Let me move that around. But I remember I was cleaning out like bins of memorabilia under my stairs. Right. Again, I'm 42 years old. This is a long time ago. And I was cleaning it out, some stuff. My mom moved a few years back. And so she had some of my stuff. So I was going through it and that book was in there. And it said, Dear Kambria. And I wish, essentially the message said, it said, I believe in you. I know you can change. Signed, President blank. And I found that book again and I was just like, whoa. Like I had so much compassion for 17, 18-year-old Kambria who must have felt like so alone and so abandoned and so saddened, you know? So
Yeah.
I ended up there. I didn't take the sacrament. I wasn't allowed to for multiple months, right? You can't take the sacrament when you like have homosexual relationships. So, but I still wanted to go to church because I had this deep core belief, you know? And I was like, well, no, this is how I'm raised and this is important. And I was so blessed. A lot of my friends in the queer community have not, like my family never shunned me. My family never disowned me. My friends, I had one experience with a best friend, but we no longer speak. But other than that, I was very supported. But initially it wasn't, oh, hey, I'm gay and everybody supported me. It was like, oh, I did this thing and this is super wrong and I'm going to repent. And I remember one day just sobbing in my room all day. And then I went and my mom came home or something. I was like, Mom, I finally cried the devil out of me.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember saying that. So
This is that's horrendous.
yeah,
Like, and
it was really sad.
This is part of the reason that we wanted to do this podcast. There's so many stories like that, and when I first moved here, I'm very curious, and she will say over and over, I'm weirdly fascinated with any church, just because it's like, it's weird to me.
I don't say weirdly fascinated.
Just say you're fascinated. You are the most fascinated person.
Hold on, I got to look at where your Mercuries are so I know how you guys ask questions to each other. You for sure said weirdly. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, your Mercury's in Virgo, so you're very, direct to the point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, that's what you were saying, no? I mean,
I'm weird. Right on the money. No, but when I first moved here and I was like, just kind of figuring things out, it was like 3 years ago, and starting to talk to people here and really starting to learn about the Mormon Church, I would just end up in these conversations with people.
Sure.
And one of them was at a thrift store. I love to thrift. I am a thrift whore. And I was in this thrift store, and this guy who was all in maybe a mesh shirt and little leather vest and a pink boa. And as I was checking out, we started talking, and he mentioned that he had recently come out and it was really difficult for him, and he was still a member of the church. And I was like, oh my God, how are you dealing with that? And he said, if God made me, how could he have made me wrong? And I was like, oh, God, you're ripping my heart out. And I hope he found his way out.
Yeah.
At the time he was struggling. But I hear stories about that all the time. And it makes me really sad that someone would look at you and say, writing your book, you can change, you should change. It's asking you to be something that not be something that you are. You can't be not white.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We've talked about this before, and we'll probably bring it up again, but one of the most damning doctrines of the Book of Mormon and the Mormon Church is the natural man is an enemy to God.
Yeah.
Or the natural woman is an enemy to God, meaning everything that makes you you is so wrong. And you're only a good person if you just turn that natural part of yourself over to God and let him change you and mold you into
Even
just
though
shove you in a
he
little box.
ostensibly molded you the first time,
Right.
Get it right. What's wrong with this?
Mold you again. But it's the product's fault. It's the product's fault.
That started down a path of many years of trying to not be with women or into women, but then just doing it behind closed doors even more.
Good for you.
You know, and like I said, so it was kind of like, and again, I was so blessed with parents that did not like shove the church down my throat or force. There was definitely a foundation there and a belief system, but it wasn't like, if you don't continue to do this, you're not going to be a part of us and you're not going to, you know, be part of this family or anything like that. So
That's great.
yeah, it was a little different experience, but I do remember being like, and I remember that day. So I don't remember a lot, but I remember crying all day long and being like, oh, I finally cried enough or repented enough that I cried the devil out of me, you know?
And then
So-
the next time you were the woman, you're
Yeah.
like, damn it.
Yeah, totally. And I was like, yeah. And then I mean, that cycle of, you know, shame and confusion and guilt and secrecy. I mean, all of that for several years after that, even when I'm not going to church anymore. Right. So then you leave the church, but then you're also in societal constructs and what's the conditioning before that. And, you know, it's a long journey.
So no conversion therapy, because I know that's a very
No.
real thing.
No, thank goodness.
So
No.
nobody was pressuring you.
Nobody was pressuring me. Again, very loving, supportive parent, step parent. You know, and I still, like, till this day, my dad and my stepmom are still very active. I have family members, really close friends. I have a lot of people still very active in the Mormon church. And I have some friends who left the church and have very, very big feelings about the church, similar to the two of you.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and I've got everyone and everything in between. Right. And so for me, I don't practice. I don't go to the church. I'm not part of it. I left about 16, 18, somewhere in there. Right. Stop going every week. And then you're there once a month. And then you're there every 3 months. But I've had a lot of people over the last decade and stuff start to pull away from the church. And
Which is great. And hopefully
yeah.
more people will do that. And
Right.
not that there's, you know, having a belief in something is fine and everyone's own personal choice. It's the manipulation and abuse. And we talk about this every episode, but all of it is in service to that 10% and keeping people in and controlling them, the thought control, the mind control, the behavior control.
Yeah, and we want to just emphasize again in this episode, because we do, is that we are not anti-God, we're not anti-belief, anti-religion as much as we are anti-abuse.
Sure.
Which sounds like something
Yeah,
you
like,
endured.
yeah. And so it wasn't, you know, going back, and like I said, it's something for me that I don't spend a ton of time there. And I think, and sometimes I compared back then my experience with a handful of my other friends who were their experience was significantly worse, right? I don't look at the Mormon church or whatever and be like, like there's not that for me, because my experience was a lot different. But I do have very close friends who their families did disown them, and they were, you know, lots of things were said to them behind closed doors with a bishop or a stake president that are extremely inappropriate and traumatizing. Right.
Yeah.
And so that was not my personal experience, but it doesn't, you know, kind of lessen that blow. And like I said, even, you know, 7 years ago when I found that book, or 5, whatever it was, nobody quote me on timelines. Everybody knows I do not have a memory. Okay.
You bend. I saw you did a video
Yes,
about bending.
I do bend time. I am a magician. So here's this. But when I found that book, you know, it's like, you know, we all have those. It was still a part of me. It was a part of my life and something. And so being able to have that it just felt so icky when I picked up that book and read it. And I was like, whoa.
It's gross. And this book was written by a former prophet. Spencer W. Kimball wrote this. He was prophet when I was little. In it's so shaming. I took an institute class right after my mission based on that book, and we just really studied miracle theory. I sobbed like every week. I would go to this class. I came feeling just like shit about myself. And so I had to drop the class to save my mental health because it was like, you're worthless. Oh, and by the way, Bigfoot is Cain, is what they taught in the book.
What? Wait, what?
Bigfoot.
I never read the book.
Oh, good thing.
Yeah. I was like,
And
thanks for the book. And no.
Never finished. But no, in this book, like,
What do you mean?
Cain, from like Cain and Abel that we've talked about, like, this prophet claimed that Bigfoot was Cain, just roaming the earth.
What?
I cannot speak to any of this. I don't know.
You, like I said, sometimes you say things, and now I'm like, oh yeah, it's just crazy here. I just expect crazy shit to come out of people's mouths all the time, but pretty much daily. When we have conversations, you manage to shock me.
But consider this your shock of the day. That was a tangent. Let's get back to Cambria.
Seriously, just
You are
kidding.
more important than Bigfoot.
Leo over here just waiting on you.
I should just back in the mouth.
If people could come over and start taking pictures of us, this would really improve. We're ready. Lights, camera, go. I know. No, we need you to balance us. We need your Libra energy to keep us grounded.
I'm trying.
Yes.
You can read our birth charts later, so that's going to be really fun. One thing I'm sort of curious about, and this is just from from my own like morbid curiosity.
Sure.
You went through this time where you were feeling distraught or pulled or conflicted, and then but you stayed for a while. I'm curious, like, it's interesting to me, like, what broke your shelf? If it was it the shame and the hurt and not being able to be who you were? And then was it coupled with, oh my God, this is bullshit? Like, she had a, like, this is bullshit moment, like, where she read and read. It was like, none of this is true. Did that happen for you? Or was it like, I'm just curious what the end after those years was like.
No. And in fact, actually, people be like, when did you come out? Like, what's your coming out story? And I'm like, you're going to have to refer, can I phone a friend? Because I don't, from my own perspective and memory, it was just kind of a slow unraveling, right? It was like you get out of high school, you get out of that, you transition to a new phase of your life. Again, it wasn't something I was been forced to do. There was nobody supportive or in my life being like, you have to do this. And then I think I started probably working on Sundays. And so it's just kind of this, because I stopped going to church sooner than I ever even came out. So there was a few years within that too, before I remember ever bringing like a partner, a girlfriend around like my family or introducing them as my girlfriend and not just my friend. And so there was that unraveling.
Yeah.
So it wasn't this, I don't think I had like this is an absolute bullshit. Here's the moment and I'm done. I'm assuming you're referring to like the some letter that a lot of people, okay. So like still haven't read that, right? Because it came out long after I kind of had departed from the church. And it just hasn't been this like, this is not it for me. I'm out of here. Fuck you guys. Bye. Right. Because my grandmother was still very active in the church and that is like, she was my safe space. So she was very active. So sometimes I would still, when I would visit her in St. George, Southern Utah, I would still go to church for her, because I could separate. It wasn't so traumatizing for me that I couldn't step back into church. I would do that for her. Or if like I had friends, kids get baptized or something like that. But I stopped going to church late teens, early 20s. Few more years before I could really feel okay in my skin. Probably even a few more years before I really would be open on a consistent basis. Until I would be like, oh, I'm Kambria and I'm a lesbian woman or queer or whatever,
And did your grandmother ever, did you come out to your grandmother or was she?
No, she, it's kind of a funny story. Love her. Bless her. She had a lot of queer folk come through her house in her lifetime that she never knew about. She's cool now. She's cool now though, like she's passed on, she's somewhere else. And it was funny because after she passed, like she was a Sagittarius woman. She was a convert to the church, Southern woman. So she was knew what exactly she wanted. So she had her whole thing planned. And my mom and I went the next day to the place she had chosen her flowers and all the stuff she wanted for her funeral. And it was a flower shop owned by a gay man. And he was the best. And I feel like that was my grandma's way of saying, hey, I see it different, you know?
Yeah.
I know that, right? Nobody can take that from me. I know that wherever she is, she's saying, hey, Maybe we didn't talk about it. Maybe I didn't know for sure, but I want you to know it's okay.
That's awesome.
I can
That's
feel that.
really lovely.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. So I'm going to take a break for 1 second, make sure we finished all of we talked about a lot of this. So we'll go into,
Just like
the spirituality stuff.
Yeah,
Is
let's
that
go into
okay?
spirituality, and then we can do the birth charts.
Do you want to talk? Do you want to ask?
Yeah, yeah,
about
I'll
that?
ask
I feel like I've talked a lot.
Yeah. Well, I talked to. So I can't talk to you. All right. So now you've left this Mormonism, which is very, very strict way of living, this doctrine.
Yeah.
And now you do consider yourself spiritual, correct?
Yeah. Now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It took some time for you to kind of get to that place, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think, I remember I was living in New Mexico at the time. So yeah, if let's just easy dates like 20-ish, right? I'm around 20 and I don't have the church. Probably really, my spirituality really came back to me maybe 6 or 7 years ago. So there was a really long gap of feeling, well, if I'm not Mormon, and and I had never gone to other churches and explored anything, but little bits that I did know, nothing was landing. Nothing felt true. Nothing felt worthy of going or wanted to go. And I definitely was not going to go back to the Mormon church. So I didn't have a connection to God or source or universe, whatever people have that. I didn't have that. And so there was definitely a piece of that missing, right? And the one thing I will say, like when you're in any type of organized religion or some forced community, community of any type, you have other people. There's a community there to be able to find. So that was a big gap for me, I think, for a period of time. Yeah. Of not having, but I worked so I can see when people maybe are feeling torn, regardless of it's Mormonism or they want to leave a job or a marriage or anything that has been so constant for them for such a long period of time. There's so much fear around the unknown. And it's like when I give this thing up that I know isn't working, like I feel it's not working, what else is there? And sometimes that's the scariest part. So we just stay comfortable.
Yeah. And I think that there are a lot of people that I've met since moving here that I see sort of maybe have one foot kind of out the door, but the way that the church functions is to fuse itself with people. So the people become the church becomes the people. Everything about your life is related to the church. Community, you're just everything. The way you think, what you eat, what you watch,
and
drink,
what you believe. And like there's a lot of peace in knowing what the afterlife will be like, because I think that's the thing that's the most unsure and scary is death.
Oh, totally.
And someone shows up at your door, missionaries show up and say, hey, do you want to be with your family in eternity forever?
Totally.
Yeah. And so I can see why people stay, because they want that comfort in knowing, and not knowing is terrible.
Yes.
Well,
people, I think, we're all looking for some level of safety, right? We all want to feel safe. We want to feel safe in our homes, in our relationships, our neighborhoods, and we want to feel safe in what comes next, aka the afterlife. And, you make a good point about how everything's so enmeshed. And again, my experience was, I don't ever want to downplay my own hard experiences and the things I went through, but again, my source of support and the people in my community, I wasn't going to lose them by leaving the church. I wasn't going to lose them by coming out as a queer person, right? I wasn't going to lose all of that. And a lot of people, that is on the table.
Yeah.
And so you're asking somebody to choose between an authentic life and who they are at their core and who they are in their soul's essence, and this thing that they maybe don't align with anymore. But if they leave the church, they leave the church and now they've lost their support system, they've lost their community, they've potentially lost jobs, right? Whatever their source of their sense of safety, that's a big ask.
Yeah.
That's a big transition.
So can you, I absolutely agree with that. And I think that's the reason a lot of people end up staying in the church for as long as they do, and sometimes forever. And again, that is the church tactic, because they've got to keep that sweet 10% rolling in. So that's definitely
Get that money.
Yeah, it's intentional. Maybe not. That's 12 with no.
Oh my gosh, hilarious. That was good. Do not edit that out. Hilarious.
I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious.
Sure.
And I love existing so much, and I feel like I probably won't. It makes me sad, but it's a
Yeah,
reality I have
totally,
to deal with.
totally.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, and what your
Yeah.
spirituality is, and what your thoughts are on the app.
Yeah, definitely. So as I mentioned before, it took me a long time to find some level of spirituality. And I think as most people, what happens if you're kind of the pendulum in life is really pulled one way for a period of time. In my experience, I've watched that pendulum swing very far for most people, right? They're just like, I'm over here and this is how I operate in life. And then I'm way over here. And it's very strange for people. Like I don't drink. I've never done any drugs. I've never touched anything. So, I mean, I used to be like, I'm the Mormonist lesbian there is. And people are like, what does that even mean? And I was like, one of my girlfriends was like, you got to stop saying that. But yeah, so I mean, I think, but again, for me, because it wasn't this like pressure hold that I still had room and space to be who I was. The pendulum never swung super far for me. I still was like operated how I did. I still lived kind of the lifestyle that I was living pre-church, middle church, no church, way past church. But what I would say with that is I went very long without a spirituality because it was like, well, the only connection to that is through going to organized religion, and then up, right? And how I view spirituality is just, there doesn't need to be a middleman or a middle woman, right? What is my connection to God, source? So, one thing that like kind of the spiritual woo practice that I run is Kaya, which spells with a K, and it stands for come as you are. So whether somebody's deep entrenched in religion, whether it be Mormonism, Catholicism, they're an atheist, it doesn't matter, come, right? And find your connection to soul first. And I think like, and then what is your connection outside of you? And that's how I came into spirituality. I didn't have that for a long time. And then I left my decade-long job and I had complete silence in my life for the first time in a very long time. And I was like, what is this? Panic mode, right?
Too quiet.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not managing phone calls, putting out fires. And what that forced me to do was go inward. And I think we live in a world today more than ever, so much is outside of us, right? We're searching outside. And so I had to go inward. And then I read something about an empath, and I had never heard that word up until like 10 years ago. I didn't know what an empath was. And I read that and I was like, that is exactly me. Like it was the first thing in a long time that had kind of connected, because when I was active in the church, I felt what people call the Holy Ghost, right? I don't define it that way anymore, but I had spiritual experiences in the church. And so I didn't think I could have them somewhere else. It's kind of like this. This is like a good metaphor. It's like when you have that really powerful, intimate relationship and you're like, whoa, this is the love of my life. I'm never going to feel it again. And you're sure you're not going to feel it again. And then you feel it again.
Yeah.
Right. That's how it kind of felt. Like I can only feel this spirit when I'm here in this church or when I'm doing this church thing. And that can go for any church. But really you can feel that spirituality other places. You can be moved other places. When I was telling you about my coming out story, I could feel your energy. I saw your eyes watering up. Like you can feel things outside of those spaces. And I think people need to know that. You know?
And this is actually making my eyes water a little bit because I love the idea of spirituality outside of religion. I said we're both spiritual, even though I am an agnostic, leaning atheist. I have the same, whatever you call that, the thing when I feel it when I am in nature or sometimes when I'm meditating or doing yoga, or if I have a really good run.
Yeah.
There are times that I feel very connected to the planet, to the universe, to myself.
Yes.
And that's what I mean. And to other people. I have a really, like, sometimes when we're talking, or like with my very good friends or with my husband, or like people that I feel a profound connection with. And to me, that is spirituality. That is spirit.
Totally.
And I love to hear you talk about it in that way. Like it's just so perfect.
One thing that I'm learning about spirituality, because I'm still on a path, and I recognize that this is probably going to be something I'm on the rest of my life.
Oh, for sure.
Most beautiful thing about spirituality for me is not knowing, not being 100% sure.
Yep.
Because that opens my mind to learning new things. But as soon as I'm locked into it, this is the truth and this is the way everything is, then I'm closed-minded and I'm not open to new perspectives and new learning.
Totally.
So, yeah, spirituality is great that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's just been my experience. You know, everybody's going to have different experience. I think what's wonderful is even people in the church, they can have those experiences. It's when people have those experiences and then create that as absolute truth for everyone, that becomes problematic. And where's the source, right? What's the intention? That's why I'm like, how about, whatever your connection is to Jesus or God or Allah or spirit or universe or the cosmos for some of us, there's no middle person. It's mine. And that's just for me. And that's great. And what works for you. And I will tell you, it's been a journey and an unfolding, and it's ever changing. So I stay curious, right? I'm not the end all be all, like, this is what spirituality is. I can only share what spirituality has been for me, and also how a piece of me that wasn't there for a long time feels so fulfilled. And now when I talk, as y'all know, I don't be like, oh, I'm Kambria, I'm a realtor. I'm like, I'm an energy worker. How do you feel? How does something feel to you? And then you move with it. Right?
So speaking of all of this, you as an astrologer read birth, not bird.
Not to be confused with bird charts. You gotta tell y'all. Yeah.
Yeah. So Kambria in all of her meetings would introduce herself and say, and I read bird charts. And for the longest time, I was like, Kambria, what is a bird chart? Like, what do
And by long time, we're talking several months of being around each other.
I'm like, is it a toucan? What we got here?
Oh my gosh, I love it. Yes, totally.
So, with clarifications, a birth chart.
Yes.
So explain to the audience a little bit about what a birth chart reading is.
Love that. So in my exploration and my curiosity of spirituality, I give a huge shout out to my brother. He lives in Los Angeles, and he's somebody who helped kind of pave the way for me. He had a very different experience coming out of the church than I did. But he got into astrology, and being a queer person, like lesbian, I don't know what it is about lesbians and astrology, but it's always been, apparently. They were like, oh, you must be a Leo. And I was like, yeah. And they're like, oh, you are. And I'd be like, what does that mean? I'd be so mad. And now I'm that person angering people, right? I'm like, oh, you're totally a Leo. And they're like, what? Tell me, And I'm like, oh, how the tables always turn, right? So he got into astrology, and, I've always been curious. I've had an obsession with the moon for my entire life, and just like, oh my gosh, look at the moon. Right. And I think as women, we have a moon cycle, and it's all lined up, and the whole thing's there. So I got into astrology through my brother, and I was going through a very huge transitional time. And my brother and I are close, but we do not talk often. So when I see him, it's like no time has passed, but we're not the siblings that talk on a reg and like call each other once a week or something. And he called me kind of out of the blue, and I was actually kind of in this middle of a complete transformational time. I had been crying for like 4 straight days, and my mom was like, are you okay? What's going on? And hindsight's always 2020. I was just going through a really spiritual kind of rebirth situation. But he called and he said, let's just pull up your birth chart or natal chart, or they're also known. I'm probably start using natal chart, but then people are also like, what does that mean? So we're just gonna talk about your chart, where all the planets were in the sky when you were born. Okay. That's what that means. So he kind of read it for me, and here's this person who's known me my whole life, but he was speaking to things that my brother wouldn't know about. And he was confirming things that I was going through or experiencing, or kind of how I felt. And it was just a shedding, right? I was dying. Energetically, I was dying. I was releasing armor. I was shedding old beliefs. So much was leaving me, and I was crying my way through it, and I didn't know what's happening. And then, it was like 300 pounds of weight, right? Over like 5-6 days of just crying. Looking back, it was during an eclipse. Yeah. There was an eclipse. So now that I know about astrology, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Most people, that kind of transformation takes months. A lot in my chart. I have a lot of fire in my chart. So everything that I do is very fast. And it was eclipse, and that moves everything a lot faster and makes it way bigger and more dramatic than anybody really wants to deal with. But, so I kind of started studying more and more. And so what a birth chart is it really is just where were all the planets in the sky at the moment you were born, right? When you entered the earth, right? And so one thing I like to say, because people are like, astrology's not real. And you guys have heard this before, but I'm going to repeat it for all the viewers out there that are about to turn off because we're talking about astrology. Hang tight. Okay? So it is. So, is the moon in the sky? People are like, yes, we know the moon's up in the sky. Okay, we agree on the moon. Does the moon affect the tides? Do you guys think moon affects? Okay, so the moon affects the tides. Tides are made of
water.
What are humans made of?
Water.
Yeah. So if the moon affects the tides that are made of water, we know the moon affects us, right? You used to be a school teacher, you know.
A full moon, the kids were insane.
Wild, right? I have a dear friend. She works at St. Mark's in the psychiatric unit. They always overstaff, right? You talk to police, you talk to EMTs, first responders. Everybody knows a full moon. So that's my thing. If the full moon's up there and it's having some impact on us and our emotions and how we operate in the world, it's, what's to say all the other stuff isn't having an impact? So astrology is a tool and it is a language. It's not a belief system. So it's a language. So the same way it might take somebody 8, 10, 15 years to learn Spanish or German or whatever, right? And the more you immerse yourself into it, the more you understand it. So yeah, it's a language. It's a language of the stars, and being able to understand that language allows me to use it. And it helps in business, relationships, everything.
Cool.
Yeah.
So Kambria is going to read our birth charts and tell us, I think, a little bit about ourselves and
Yeah.
a little bit about how we work together.
Yeah.
And we get along so
We
well.
get along really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're like popcorn, like when we just start talking. That's what we decided to do.
Yes.
The podcast.
Yes. Love it.
So it'll be
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to hear. Are we ready? Are you guys ready?
And now it's time for a trying moment.
So we're going to talk a little bit about Kate first. And of course, we're not going to go through a whole birth chart reading. But what we're going to talk is like what we call in astrology your big three. Where was the sun when you were born? Where was the moon? And what is your rising sign? So if somebody ever says, oh, I'm this, right? I'm this moon rising. That's their big three. And it's so interesting to me because often in religion or beliefs, there's always some type of trinity.
Right.
Yeah.
And I will say that, kind of going back to what we talked before, so much of what I've experienced in life. So a lot of people, religions, beliefs are saying the same thing. Just comes in a little different package, right?
Yeah.
So it's your big three, your main three. So we talked about this. You're Leo sun, but the moon was also in Leo, right, when you were born.
Okay.
So
Double Leo.
double Leo, yes.
Me double roar.
Totally. But what does that mean, right? Okay, well, Leos are the drama queens. Leos also bring
Surprise.
does that feel true for you? They love the drama, but also Leos are the fun. They're the playful. They bring the joy to a space. They're the party. So our sun sign is how we show up in the world, right? Our sun sign is how we shine in the world. You think about the sun, what does it do? It provides light, right? The sun provides light and life. So your sun is your purpose. How do you bring light and life into the world? And so Leos are meant to be on a stage.
What?
Kate, you are where you are meant to be, not at Target stacking shelves.
Hallelujah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because
And I'm sure when you're acting, because I know you love to act too, you're just like, that is where your soul is bursting and you're in your light in that moment. Okay. So that's a Leo sun. We're going to stay on the sun. So now we're Libra sun, right? What do Libras care about? One, relationships. Okay. And that's not just intimate partnership and marriage, but business partnership. Right. And so finding the people who are in the right relationship with you, and Libras care a lot about other people. There's a lot of compassion. Right. So while people might come on here and a lot of people are giving you a hard time and like, oh, you're doing this, you're doing it from a place of actually having compassion for people. And Libras are highly concerned with things that feel fair.
Yeah.
And equal.
You?
Right. When something is not fair, that is going to light you up. Right. And so your sun is your purpose. So your purpose is to bring fairness, justice, equality, and harmony to relationships. Right. And your purpose is to bring the fun, the party, the lion's roar. Leos are lions. And they also, this is not me because I'm a Leo, y'all, but this is true. Leos are the kings and queens of the zodiac. Right. So they basically are the rulers, leadership, doing things bravely that maybe other people will not do.
Wow.
But having the courage, right? You
That's
think
the
of
first thing I said to you.
Yes.
I think the first message I sent to you before we knew each other, when I found out what you're going through, I said, I think it's really courageous.
Yes.
What you're doing, because I cared about her.
Yes. Yes.
And justice and
Totally.
getting out of something that was hurting you. And
Yes.
I was like, this is, I don't know that much about faith deconstruction. I don't think I would have called it that then, but I said, I don't know much about like leaving the church,
Yep.
but I have heard from people it can be really difficult. You can lose some relationships, and you've said that you have. I think it's really courageous that you're doing that.
Yeah.
And courageous doesn't mean easy, but
No.
we do.
No. So there's two celestial bodies in the sky, and one is the moon and one is the sun. So people with a Cancer moon or a Leo sun placement, those are basically zodiac placements really blown up. So I tell Leo suns, anytime that you're struggling and you're kind of down on yourself and you maybe are feeling insecure, you have to remember you are the motherfucking sun. Write it on your
I
mirror.
am the motherfucking sun.
Yes.
Well,
Every Leo sun that's watching this, remember, you are the motherfucking sun. Because Leos do have the courage, and often they will do things that feel very challenging. They can feel alone in those challenges. So remember that without the sun, what happens to the earth? What happens to life? It goes away. Right? So while it's so fun and party and love, also I understand that it's a huge responsibility to have a Leo sun. So I see you and I know that, but you are the motherfucking sun and we need the sun. Okay?
and I'm keeping that.
Thank you.
Yes. And write it on your mirror. Okay.
Oh,
And that's not taking away from anyone else, but everybody has their placements and things that they need. And Libras, again, you bring balance and harmony to situations and relationships. So it's also important for you to make sure that intimate partnerships, close friendships, business partnerships are with the right people, because otherwise your light will dim, right? Your sun. How do we shine in the world? So that's your sun. Quickly topping. Another aspect of this, if anybody's in astrology, they're gonna be like, you're not talking about what house it's in, blah, blah, blah. We don't have time for that.
House isn't like Slytherin and Gryffindor house. What?
Let me show both of you. This is a snapshot of the sky.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So your sun right here, this is your little sun.
Uh-huh.
Yours is in the 12th house. And I do have to talk about this because your sun is in Leo. So we're both sun and Leo.
Okay.
Yours is in the 12th house. Okay. The 12th house rules mysticism, belief, magic, universe, religion, past lives. So even if I didn't know what you were doing, of course I know people like, well, she knows, she does that. What we're seeing here is, do you have courage to go on adventures and do things that have to do with multiple realms of existence, multiple spiritual realms, right? If I were to look at this, I didn't know if you are a sun and Leo in the 12th house is never going to be in an organized religion. You're just not. Because the 12th house rules that, right? So you have an outfit, but your jacket, this is the best way to remember houses, both Leo sun, but your jacket is a jacket of mysticism, religion, spirituality, daydreaming, dreaming, intuition, right? My jacket, both Leo sun, mine's in the 7th house, which is relationship.
I can see that about you.
So for me, if I'm in the right relationship, right, I bring my courage and I bring my love and my party to my intimate relationships, to my business partnerships. When I'm in alignment, those things flourish. I'm speaking my truth. I'm having my courage to do things in relationship, business, and intimate otherwise. So it's a different jacket. That's what the houses are. So and then for you, you see your sun, Erika, is right up here in the 9th house.
What is 9?
So the 9th rules, which traditionally it's ruled by Sagittarius, but okay, so the 9th house rules philosophy, truth seeking, freedom.
It's you. That is you. That is so you.
So, and Sag also rules travel, international travel, or other cultures.
So me, like all
Right?
of that is me. I
Right.
love to travel. My husband is like, he travels with me.
Yeah.
But he's like, wouldn't travel without me, probably.
Yeah.
I'm always like, I've said to him, I could be away from my home for 355 days a year and be so
1,000
happy.
yes.
Like, I love to go
Yes.
abroad. I love
Yes.
meeting new people. I love new cultures.
Totally.
Yeah.
And definitely truth seeking. One of the things I say in our podcast and in life, and my dad actually said to me, was your biggest flaw is you don't accept any bullshit from anyone, including yourself. And what he meant by that is you don't accept when people aren't being truthful with themselves, or when you're not being truthful with
Yeah.
yourself. Like,
Yeah.
you don't accept bullshit. If
Totally.
someone is like doing mental gymnastics to make themselves believe something stupid, it makes you crazy.
Yeah.
Because I seek the truthiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, weird.
Yeah. That's what I tell, like, it's wild,
Yeah.
right? I mean, yes, we know each other from the Daybreak Network, but other than one coffee outside of that, we've never spent
Yeah.
time together,
Uh-huh.
right? So I don't actually know y'all.
Yeah.
So, but I can see it from here. I'm going to digress off your big three for just a second because I want to show you like your overarching energy of your whole chart is actually earth energy. Every zodiac sign is ruled by an element and a mode. The heavy hitting energy across your whole chart is earth, which means you're very grounded.
And this is Kate that you're talking to right now, just for our.
Oh, yes. So for Kate, you are very grounded. You have a lot of earth energy. And I think that's what allows you to, I've seen some of the comments and the feedback just on certain Facebook pages of what I'll get. So you have the courage to be doing what you're doing, but also remind yourself to stay grounded. You have a hard conversation with somebody, people are coming at you on the internet, whatever it is, go put your bare feet in the grass. It's one of the fastest ways you're going to heal. Okay. Stay connected to the earth, stay grounded, do a lot of breath work, calm your nervous system. This is a huge piece for you. The overarching element for you is air. So keep running your mouth. I'm just kidding.
We know who we're talking to.
But actually kind of for real, keep talking, right? Air signs keep learning, and air signs want to learn. They want to grow. They want to have intelligent, deep conversations. And so again, when you feel stuck, right? So if you feel stuck, you're the motherfucking sun and go roll in the grass. I kid you not. Get at the top of a hill when it's warm enough, or what? Put on a jacket. You'll be fine. And roll your ass down the hill.
I'll do that with you.
Okay.
You can do that with me.
Yes,
we will.
Hell, you know.
I will film it. I want to see this. But genuinely, that's going to be super helpful. There's a whole bunch of energetic reasons why you do that too, but that's going to help you ground and keep, grounded to the earth. And you continue to have intellectual conversations, be stimulated, right? Journal, write, podcast.
Oh my God.
Any blog. You have a blog too, right?
Yeah, she's a writer. Uh-huh.
You guys, this is real. You're saying it right here. Okay. It says air and earth. Okay. I'm not making it up. I pointed them to the laptop. Those of you that can't see. But this is your birth chart. This is literally what the cosmos are saying about you when you were born.
And that's probably one of the reasons that I had such a difficult time in my last job was that everything was stunted. Even though it was in a university, there was a point at which like the conversation had to stop because it was so super Mormon, and there wasn't like
There's no intellectual curiosity, right?
No. There was a university, so it went to a point and then it would stop. And I always was like, I wanted to tear my hair out a lot of the times because I felt so sort of throttled back because you had to, because it was a lot of the people were entrenched in a cult.
Yeah.
And you can't, there's only so far a conversation can go. And then the rest of it makes you go like, what?
Right. And for you, having so much air, being able to have, and it's, let me clarify, it's not having conversations that people agree with you per se, right? Because I've learned enough about you. That's not what you're looking for. You're wanting to have honest, real, intriguing, and challenging conversations. That's air sign, right? Yeah. So making sure you're getting that through your writing, any type of communication.
Do we know what do you master?
Oh my God. Book me for a birth chart because it's real. Isn't that wild? Yeah.
That's wild.
And so a big thing too, and I will tell people this, you can use astrology to predict, right? We can look at your birth date and times and be like, this is what's coming up for you. There's a place for that. When I first start teaching people and start the very first readings, we don't do that. I am all about you getting connected back to your soul, back to you, who you are as an essence. And that can be very scary because we've all had so much conditioning, so much trauma, so much lifestyle, right? So many influences around us that going back and being like, ooh, this is who I am. This is who I know I am at my core can be really, really scary for a lot of people. But that truth helps us to get really clear and be in alignment with how we move forward in work, in podcasting, in relationships. When people leave something that's been so foundational for you, there's a lot of like I don't know what's come next. Who am I? Who am I without this whole entire religion that I've been building my entire life around? Right? Astrology helps with that. Helps you to remember. So your moon is Leo. So take all those same traits about being the party, being the fun. The biggest thing I'll tell people when you double fun, double party also needs double attention. Okay.
Look at me, guys.
Yes.
Look at me.
She needs to hear doubly. So this is good for you to know because you guys are in close relationship. Constant praise. Look how amazing and powerful and strong and beautiful Kate is, everyone. We love her so much. Thank you for, leading the way for so many. Thanks. Yeah. Your moon is your emotional needs. Right? Your physical and emotional needs. So when people are dating somebody, they're like, Kambria, right? Oh, I'm a Leo and I'm dating this person. I'm like, it doesn't matter about your sun as much. I want to know your moons because your moon is really who you are behind closed doors. So right now you're in Leo, I'm in Leo and Aquarius. You're in Leo and Virgo because our risings show up too. You're in Libra and Aquarius. I want to get to that. But our moon is really who we are behind closed doors with our spouses, with our children, with our close friends, who we were growing up in a home. So yeah, if you grew up in a home where you were not praised, where you were not seen. I mean, I don't know much about your childhood, but if you did not feel seen and valued and appreciated, your soul has been damaged from an astrology standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And that's not you feeling bad for yourself. Like that's actually how you're made. And so continuing to be with people who see you, who love you, who are going to verbally and physically remind you on a regular fucking basis. That is what you need. And you deserve.
Yeah, I do. Thank you. Oh man, this is called a very special two numbers too. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay.
Yes.
Anyway.
And your moon is in Taurus.
What?
Has anyone told you that you're stubborn? I can't imagine.
My husband would say I'm a doormat. I just
Yeah.
With my parents.
And all of our listeners there, right?
Yeah.
Most fucking stubborn.
Yes, totally.
Ever meet.
Yes.
Once I have it.
Yes.
I also will listen. You know, but if I'm like, no, I don't want to do this or I disagree, I don't lay down easily.
Yeah. So just a hint for all the listeners, never tell a Taurus what to do. And this is your moon. So if Erica's husband is listening, never tell her what to do. Emotional needs, right? Because people are like the 5 love languages. And I'm like, who gives a shit about that? Get a birth chart reading and I will tell you. So yes, you're very stubborn and nobody needs to be telling you what to do. And what's beautiful about Taurus is you're very consistent and you bring a lot of value to whatever you do because Taurus rules our value system, right? It's not surprising that you are doing a podcast based off things that you believe and what it feels like value to you, right? Also, nobody knows how to set a space like a Taurus. Right? They don't, their homes, their workplaces, things look good, smell good, taste good, sound good.
I've been to this woman's, she is the best cook. She's like, here you go. And then this amazing spread. And it looks good. It smells good. It tastes amazing.
It's 5 senses. You're governed by the 5 senses, right? So in this dynamic, right? Remembering the 5 senses are very important for a Taurus. But again, Taurus keep us grounded and they keep us rooted and they're very loyal. So when a Taurus loves you, a Taurus in your big 3 period, but Taurus moon is your emotional connection. So you're very loyal to the people you feel emotionally connected to, and they know. So it's it's the bull. You're not going to move a bull. And that can be annoying because you're like, move. You're so stubborn, but also you can't, that the bull won't move.
Yeah.
So you trust that they have your back. Those are your moons, right? Those are your emotional needs. The last piece of this that I want to talk about, 2 things. I want to talk about your rising, but I want to talk about Mercury because it's how y'all communicate, right? Your rising sign. So if your sun is your purpose, it's what your point is in the world, how you shine up, how you bring your light. Your rising sign is the path you take to get there. There's a lot of different information around rising sign. some people say you grow into it. Like the older you get, the more your rising sign shows up. But the rising sign is just, sun rises in the east, sets in the west. What sign, 24 hours in a day, 12 zodiac signs. So what sign did the sun cross through at the exact time of your birth? So this is why your exact birth time is very important. So you're double Leo, but you have Virgo rising.
Okay. I don't even know what that means.
So for as much as you're a party and you have fun, right, you still need things to be very organized and in order and precise, right?
You're not a perfectionist at all.
No,
Not
no. And what I've been struggling with for quite a while in my life is that I'm also incredibly ADHD, like super ADHD, but I need structure and I need order.
Yes.
I am someone else to help me.
Yes.
Someone else is maybe very organized and structured to keep me, give me the parameters.
Yeah.
I'm fine with flexibility within those parameters, but give me those fucking parameters.
Yeah. And that's actually where you thrive is having that kind of like the step by step. Right. It doesn't mean that you have to be super OCD or anything like it has to be this way, but having some structure, right, with that is going to give you that.
Hell yeah.
Also, Virgos are known for analysis paralysis. So does that happen to you ever? Like you just spin and you overthink to the point where now you don't move.
Leaving the church and leaving my career and leaving my marriage and leaving my community and leaving everything all at once.
All the structure.
Yeah.
All of that whole structure of my life. Yes, I had that freedom, which I do value. I value freedom.
Sure.
But at the same time, I felt like, who the hell am I?
Totally.
What am I doing? What structure is there for me? And I didn't have any organization or any person to do it for me. And so it's been trying to learn how to do that on my own.
Yeah.
But I'm also grateful that I have you to let's get this done, Kate, and showing up. Give me that place. Have me show up every day at this time. Tell me what to do. I'll do it. Great structure. And I can work on the other things on the side. That's totally what my recent self-revelation has been. And that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I don't know what my chart will say, but I loathe having structure put on me. I'm very structured.
Aquarius rising, for anybody who knows astrology. I'm just going to say this, Aquarius rising, before you keep talking. Go on.
I'm structured myself. So I will for the podcast, I'm like, here's our agenda. Here's what we do.
Sure.
I'll do it myself. So when someone puts it on me, I'm very resistant. Cause I'm like, I'll do it myself. I will put the structure on myself. I don't want you to do it. It fucks up my structure.
Yeah. Well, it's twofold because one, we talked about Taurus. Do you do well with anyone telling you to do anything?
No.
Okay. So no. And then Aquarius.
You would not have done well in the church. You would not have been a
No,
good
I know that. I've always been like my military. And I'm like, I would be kicked out. I'd be like, so why am I doing this?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. And they'd be like, get the fuck
They're like,
out.
no, they're like,
And
too
I'd
much.
be
You're out of here.
jail or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
So Aquarius rising. Okay. So what is Aquarius? Aquarius are aliens. That's what I tell people. And people are like, what? Not like little green men. Aquarian energy is intellectual stimulation and intellectual energy that's not from here. Is Aquarius. Aquarius is about the future. Aquarius is about rebellion. Aquarius is about doing things differently. And Aquarius is about friendship and community mostly.
Damn.
And
you
if
just described this woman.
I know. I just am reading her chart right here. I also have Aquarius rising.
Oh.
So when people are like, oh, we're doing this thing. And I'm like, I don't want to do it that way. I'm going to do it a different way. I'm going to do it different. That's boring. Everybody's doing it that way. I'm going to do it different. Right. And so the rebellions. Aquarius also care deeply about what's best for all and not just one.
Yes.
So if I can do a little bit of large astrology really quickly. The whole entire Earth, the whole planet, okay, Pluto, the furthest planet from us, rules deep transformation, secrets, but kind of like that phoenix of like deep transformation. That's what the planet Pluto rules, okay? Pluto just moved into Aquarius. So over the next 20 years, the sign of freedom, doing things differently, technology, rebellion, and what is best for humanity is governing, so Pluto transformation is in Aquarius. So as astrologers, it's like twofold, right? It's like everything that we're seeing happen around us is hard and heavy. And we also know that if something is only good for a few, there will be rebellion.
Do you hear the people singing the songs of angry men?
Yeah, the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, it was the French Revolution.
You're kidding. Oh my God.
So, I mean, take that with what you will. You might have people comment back.
We did not find it at all.
People might comment back like, that doesn't mean anything, astrology, whatever, right? And again, I don't do predictive astrology. Why you can do predictive astrology is you can say, okay, this many years ago, what was happening when Pluto was in Aquarius? And we can look at what's taking place on the earth, right? So Aquarius is for humanity. They are for the mass. Mm-hmm. What serves the group, not the individuals. Mm-hmm. So we will continue to watch an unfolding of what serves only a few individuals and what is right for the masses. So there's a little bit of glimmer of hope.
Yay! Oh, that was so great.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. You know what I'm saying? That was a whole lot coming down.
Yeah.
But so that's Aquarius rising. Okay. Coming back to the Virgo real quick too. Virgos aren't just like, they don't just need structure. Virgos are your most servant heart, right? Virgos get kind of a bad rap, but they want to serve. So sacred service is important to Virgo.
Very much so.
So when searching for that structure, do I feel as if I'm in sacred service to others? Mm-hmm. And it can be small and big, and it doesn't always have to be the overarching thing. Maybe it's an individual conversation with somebody.
She had a job at the DMV for a short time, and I was like, oh my God, that sounds like my personal hell life. And she was like, I loved it. I bet you just be a little bit of brightness in these people's day.
Totally.
At the DMV, which sucks, but they'd come in and I'd say hi, and I'd make it a good experience for them. And I was like, I would kill myself. But she loved it and being in service just in that way.
Yes.
DMV and I'll make it a good experience.
I want to help people.
Yeah, give me a job. Give me a job in public service, customer service. Don't dare throw me into corporate America. I would die.
Yeah, that's also in your birth chart. So you already know that intuitively, but that's confirmation here as well.
Are you guys hearing bird chart? I'm hearing bird chart.
Clearly, I need to work on my enunciation. Bertha. We're going to call them Bertha charts. I'm going to read your Bertha chart. I'm going to turn Bertha into some kind of cool acronym, okay?
Do it.
If I were to say natal chart, what would that mean to you? If I say natal chart?
Think of Natal, which is the birth of Christ for Christmas.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
You're like, what?
Spanish.
Yeah, I'm like, natal chart. So we're going to call them astrology charts.
There you go.
Yeah. No more bird charts. No, but on an actual real note, that's great feedback, right? Because here I am and being like, I read bird charts. That one I did say bird. That one I said bird. No, I said bird. We have a serious problem here.
Something about miscommunication.
No, what's funny is all three of our Mercury. So Mercury's your planet of communication, right? All three of us are in Virgo. Okay? Yeah. Wow. And Mercury rules Virgo, so it loves to be in Virgo. So this is where when I read, business partner or intimate partner, parent child, Mercury is one of the first things I go to because what are the communications? So people with Mercury and Virgo are very direct, very much to the point. Here's what we're seeing, right? Mercury and Virgo, we can come off as very judgmental. People might feel judged when we speak. Does it happen to any of you?
No, never.
Actually, not too, but
not that you are doing it, but how people will receive it.
Yeah.
I feel like you're judging me.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I've read the comments off the podcast, and people are like, "You're judging us now," right?
We're not.
Right. But because Mercury's in Virgo and Virgo is very clear and concise and they're going to hit every point, right? Mm-hmm. Mercury in Virgo is going to be very bullet pointed when they speak. It's funny. You handed me a bullet point. That's why I was laughing when you're like, oh, it's okay. Here's the bullet points. And I'm like, okay, Mercury in Virgo, where somebody else with a Mercury in Pisces would be like, oh, we'll just let the whole thing flow. No big deal, right? Let's just see what happens. And if our emotions lead us where we're going to go, but Mercury in Virgo can be, again, very direct, very clear. And so that people love that. And also that can be a little abrasive. Oh, you're yelling at me. You're like, I'm not yelling. I'm literally just talking.
Just telling you.
Yeah. Well, now you're judging me.
I'm not trying to placate anybody.
No. Yeah. You're like, you're judging me. No, I'm just actually speaking. So the three of us, we could sit here all day and have conversation. Nobody's going to get hurt feelings.
Right.
And we're going to understand each other very clearly. Right. People listening are all going to have Mercury and Virgo people are going to be like, oh my gosh, that's the best podcast I ever listened to. Right. They're like, I understand everything they said and why they said it the way they did. And other people might be like, too many words. Too many words, too much talking, something like that. So the both of you have Mercury and Virgo. So it's great because then it's like you're essentially both speaking the same language, right? So whatever Mercury is in for people, that's where it can be a different language. And that's where some, miscommunications tend to happen.
That's why we can't shut up.
And when you tell a story, I'm assuming it's not like the Cliff Notes. It's like the story.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We like that.
TikTok. It's like, this is long.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it up.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So just remember, again, what astrology teaches us is this is how we are. So asking people with Mercury and Virgo to just be like, hey, tell a story in 1.5 minutes or less is asking us not to break. Right? What?
Oh my gosh, it's not just me. It's not just me.
You're like, but I'm going to miss the entire point and the punchline, and you're not going to know where Nancy came in. That's how Mercury and Virgo speaks.
When I do an audition for a show and they ask for like a 1-minute monologue, I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You're restricting me to a minute?
Yeah. You're like, I cannot get my point across in a minute.
Yeah.
Right? So that's Mercury and Virgo. And so that's that level. Virgos also tend to be, Virgos, like I said, they're kind of like nitpicky. Right. So people feel in conversation, we're just like, hey, let's use an example, talking to a friend or a partner, like, hey, I'd appreciate if maybe you did it this way or something, or you've shown up late the last few times and it's, really frustrating to me. And that person's like, oh my God, why are you yelling at me? Right.
Yeah.
And I just said it exactly how I said it, maybe a little more intense. But that is where you're judging me. So now you don't want to be my friend because I'm late all the time. Right? That directness from Mercury and Virgo. So it can be intense, but then also people love it because you're very clear when you speak.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Which was another reason that I had trouble with my last job because it was very much Mormon central and no one was direct. People would, and I was like, just
tell me. Yes.
And when I did, when I would say the thing people I could tell were like, what, like, why are you yelling at me?
Passive aggressive behavior drives me insane.
Yes.
And it's very, very prominent among this religion because we don't want to hurt each other's feelings. And so lots of passive aggressiveness,
which is so
drives me insane. I hate
so
it.
much worse.
Yeah.
So like that clear, that direct communication, right? That clear understanding. So it's great for the two of you because it's easy for you to really understand each other and to kind of get going and feed off each other. You're speaking the same language. So Libra Sun, Taurus Moon, Aquarius Rising.
Okay.
Right? Okay. Double Leo, Virgo Rising.
And Virgo Rising.
So 2 things before we go.
Yeah.
One, I want to ask, what's your astrological prediction for our working relationship for our podcast?
Sure.
If you have one, if you can make any deductions.
It would be really cool to do a rating from your podcast, like the first episode. Like when you birthed Bertha
birded it.
Your podcast, so we could talk about that, right? You're in alignment. That's the biggest thing I would say. Based off your big 3, you're in alignment. And so when you are working in congruence,
we do.
What you're doing is congruent with both of your individual birth charts, right? The communication thing is a big, big piece. And then the only other thing I would say would be, I'm just going to show you. I'm showing them my laptop. So, Kate, if you can see right here, tons of stuff is in the first house for you. See all bunch of stuff right here. Okay. This comes down to self-worth. Okay. You as a human, all the first house rules self. And so, but your sun and your moon are hanging out together in the 12th house, which again is like other realms. So it's interesting because you kind of, so much about you is going to be, are you being true to self? Right?
Oh my gosh. Like authenticity is one of my number one values.
Yes. And then again, what is your connection to past lives? What is your connection to spirituality? So you kind of like mentioned something to me. You're like, I don't know, maybe I'm going to get into the woo, right? And I think it is. It's tough when you've done something your whole life and being open and curious to other things. You can tap in to other realms very quickly. Very quickly. But because you have so much stuff in the first house too, you have to be finding that balance of, is it working for you and is it serving you? But also kind of checking yourself. Okay. From a standpoint of if you start to get too insecure or too concerned or too like, this isn't serving me, that can kind of bog you down in different areas of life. And then for you, career, you have a handful of planets up there too. Career is really important for you. So, right?
It is so important to me, yes.
And so, and the thing about it that I think is cool when you're doing something when you're partnering with somebody in anything, the biggest thing is, can you both stay true to yourself and what matters for you, as well as have compassion, empathy, and understanding for the other person, right? And being able to balance both of that. So I see, I mean, again, predictions, whatever, the things that we've talked about, both of you are laughing and crying and you're feeling it because it's confirmation that you are exactly where you're meant to be. Again,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Because you're congruent. You're being congruent with yourself. Yeah. The one thing I would say is I just invite people to be very open and curious, you know, and I think when we stop asking questions and when we prevent ourselves from growing because we are unwilling to see something through the lens of another human, I think that it really damages things, right? So I invite people to be very curious. If somebody were to tell me, you know, let's see, what is it now? I don't know, 10 years ago, a decade ago, I'm working in corporate America, 80 hours a week. I don't know anything about spirituality or Reiki or sound healing or astrology. If somebody would say, hey, you can work a fraction less than what you're working. You could be successful, make just as much money, and you're going to be able to create your own life. And you're going to go around on podcasts talking about how the stars and the cosmos and the planets affect people's lives. I'd been like, you're full of shit. I don't even know what that is. Yeah. Right. So be open and stay curious and be willing. I mean, energy moves and you feel it. Right. It's how you meet somebody and you're like, that's somebody I want to be with. So the more that you're in alignment with yourself, the more clear the energy is. And yeah, I just invite people to be curious about other things, you know, be able to have a conversation, take a minute to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. And then as far as the wealth stuff goes too, right? Hit me up for real estate, hit me up for any of that, a birth chart or astrology chart reading. I'd love to connect with people. But I think perspective of other people and their experience is really important. Yeah. Now more than ever.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kambria. It's been a pleasure having you. We learned so much. I'm going to watch that again and again. Just like get it. Yeah. So everybody, until next time,
cheers to deconstructing Mormonism.